stop scrolling. Right now, this moment, this exact second you chose to click on this video wasn't random. Nothing is random. And somewhere deep inside you, beneath the noise of your daily thoughts, beneath the conditioning of what you've been told is possible, you already know this. You've been searching for something. Maybe you couldn't put it into words. Maybe it felt like a restlessness, a knowing that there's more to reality than what meets the eye. You've had those moments, those impossible moments where you thought of someone and they called, where you needed an answer and it appeared, where reality seemed to bend, just slightly, in response to your deepest desires. You dismissed them. Coincidence, you told yourself. Random chance. Luck. But what if I told you that those moments were glimpses, cracks in the illusion? Evidence of a fundamental truth that science has discovered, but most people haven't truly understood. A truth so powerful that once you grasp it, your entire relationship with reality transforms forever. This isn't mysticism. This isn't wishful thinking. This is quantum physics. This is the observer effect. And if you're watching this right now, you're ready to understand what it really means. The universe doesn't just exist out there independent of you. You're not a passive observer watching life unfold on a screen. The latest quantum experiments prove something that mystics have claimed for thousands of years. Consciousness doesn't just observe reality, it creates it. And here's what nobody's telling you. You've been doing this your entire life. You just didn't know you were doing it. You've been creating unconsciously, randomly, by default. But once you understand the mechanism, once you unlock the observer effect, you can start creating deliberately. This video found you because you're ready. The algorithm didn't randomly suggest this. Your consciousness pulled this information into your reality because part of you, the part that's awake, knows it's time. Take a breath. A real one. Feel the air entering your lungs. That oxygen was once part of a star that exploded billions of years ago. The atoms in your hand right now have passed through countless other forms. They've been mountains, oceans, trees, other people. You're not separate from the universe. You are the universe, experiencing itself. Right now, as you watch this, trillions of quantum events are occurring in your body. Electrons are jumping between energy states. Photons are striking your retina. Neurons are firing in patterns that create the experience you call watching this video. And here's the extraordinary part. None of it exists in a definite state until it's observed. The double-slit experiment proved this in a way that shook physics to its core. When scientists fired electrons at a barrier with two slits, something impossible happened. Without observation, the electrons behaved like waves, passing through both slits simultaneously and creating an interference pattern. But the moment they were observed, the instant measurement occurred, the wave function collapsed, and the electrons behaved like particles, going through one slit or the other. The act of observation changed physical reality. Let that sink in. Not affected reality. Changed it. Created it. The electron didn't have a position until consciousness interacted with it. The observer doesn't discover reality, the observer generates it. And you are an observer. Every moment of every day. Your consciousness isn't contained in your skull, it's the fundamental fabric through which reality emerges. You're not in the universe. The universe is in you. Think about your life right now. The room you're in, the device you're holding, the thoughts running through your mind, all of it exists in this present moment because you're observing it. But here's where it gets profound. You're not just observing what already exists. You're collapsing infinite possibilities into this one specific reality. Before you entered the room you're in, it existed in a state of probability. Quantum mechanics tells us that all possible states exist simultaneously in superposition. The chair could be here or there. The The light could be on or off. Everything exists as a cloud of potential until consciousness interacts with it. Your consciousness is that interaction. You are the collapse function. You are the mechanism by which the infinite becomes the specific. You've always been connected to everything. You've always had this power. You just didn't know you were wielding it. Now, we go deeper. Because if observation creates reality at the quantum level, and quantum events are the foundation of all matter, then observation creates reality at every level, including the reality you call your life. Every tradition, every ancient teaching, every spiritual text has pointed to this same truth using different languages. You are made in the image of God. Tat tuvam asa thou art that. The kingdom of heaven is within you. They weren't speaking metaphorically. They were describing the observer effect. You are not a creation. You are the creator, experiencing creation. The universe isn't a stage where you play a role. It's a canvas where you paint. But here's the part that most people miss, the part that keeps them trapped in unconscious creation. You're painting, whether you realize it or not. Your beliefs, your expectations, your dominant thoughts, these are the brush strokes. The double-slit experiment shows us that observation collapses the wave function. But what determines how it collapses? What determines which specific reality emerges from the infinite possibilities? The observer's expectation. When scientists expected particles, they got particles. When they expected waves, they got waves. The experimental set up the framework of measurement. The paradigm of observation shaped the outcome. Not because of physical interference, because consciousness carries intention, expectation, belief. You are doing this with your life right now. Your deep beliefs about what's possible, about who you are, about what you deserve, these are your measurement apparatus. These are the filters through which the quantum field collapses into your experienced reality. That job you can't seem to find? You're observing from an expectation of scarcity, and the universe delivers scarcity. That relationship that feels impossible? You're observing from an expectation of unworthiness, and reality mirrors unworthiness back to you. That health condition you can't shake? You've identified with it so completely that you're observing it into existence moment after moment after moment. This isn't blame. This isn't you manifested your trauma. You didn't know. Nobody taught you this. You've been creating unconsciously from programming installed before you could even speak. Parental beliefs, cultural conditioning, educational systems designed to make you forget your power. But now you know. And knowing changes everything. You are not discovering your life, you are authoring it. Every moment is a choice point. Every observation is a creation point. The field of infinite potential is waiting for your consciousness to interact with it and call forth specific reality. You are standing at the control panel of existence itself. The question is, are you going to keep pressing buttons randomly, or are you going to learn how the system works? You've experienced this. I know you have. Think back. Remember that time you were thinking about someone you hadn't spoken to in years, and within hours they reached out? You felt that tingle of recognition, that sense of, this isn't coincidence. That was you, observing them into your reality. Your focused consciousness reached out through the quantum field and collapsed probability in a way that brought that person into your experience. Or that moment when you needed a specific answer, and you randomly opened a book to the exact page, or overheard a stranger's conversation that contained precisely what you needed to hear. You called that synchronicity. Carl Jung called it meaningful coincidence. But there's no such thing as coincidence. There's only observation collapsing probability. You were the observer. You were the creator. You just didn't realize the mechanism. Think about times when you absolutely knew something would work out, and it did. Not hoped, knew. That deep, cellular certainty where doubt couldn't enter. Maybe it was landing a job, meeting someone important, catching a flight you thought you'd miss. That knowing wasn't prediction. That knowing was creation. You observed the outcome so completely, with such total conviction, that the universe had no choice but to deliver it. And remember the opposite. Times when you were certain something would go wrong, and it did. You knew you'd mess up the presentation. You knew they'd reject you. You knew you'd get sick. And reality obliged, not because you're cursed, because you're powerful. Because observation creates reality, and your fear-based observation is just as creative as your love-based observation. Every moment of déjà vu you've ever experienced, that eerie feeling of, I've been here before. That's your consciousness recognizing itself across probability streams. You're catching glimpses of other timelines, other collapses of the wave function, because at the quantum level, all possibilities exist simultaneously. You are more than you've been taught to believe. The small, limited identity you've carried, the story of who you are, what you can do, what's possible for you, it's just one observation. One collapsed wave function. One choice out of infinite choices. And here's the beautiful part. You can choose again. Right now. In this moment. The person you were yesterday is not the person you have to be today. That's not positive thinking. That's quantum mechanics. You are not a fixed entity moving through time. You are consciousness, constantly observing, constantly collapsing new realities into existence. You've always known this, somewhere deep. That's why this resonates. That's why you're still watching. You're not learning something newer, remembering something ancient. I need to tell you how I discovered this. Not intellectual. I read about quantum physics before, but how I experienced it. How it went from concept to lived reality. 3 years ago, I lost everything. And I mean everything. The relationship I thought was forever ended. The business I'd built for a decade collapsed. My health deteriorated. I was in the darkest place I'd ever been, convinced that life was happening to me, that I was a victim of circumstances beyond my control. I was standing in my apartment, barely my apartment. I was about to be evicted, and I remember this moment so clearly. I was looking at my reflection in the bathroom mirror, and I didn't recognize the person staring back. Hollow eyes, defeated posture. And I had this thought, this isn't me, this isn't who I am. And something shifted, not externally, inside, like a camera coming into focus. I realized I'd been observing my life through a lens of victimhood. Every morning I woke up and looked for evidence that life was hard, that I was unlucky, that things wouldn't work out. And you know what? I found that evidence everywhere. Because that's what observation does. It finds what it's looking for. It creates what it expects. I'd been collapsing the wave function of my life into failure, moment after moment, through the lens I was using to observe. So I made a decision. A crazy, illogical decision that made no sense given my circumstances. I decided to observe differently. Not to think positive or visualize. To fundamentally change my measurement apparatus. To observe my life from the perspective of someone who was already successful, already healthy, already abundant. I started small. Every morning, before checking my bank account, which was terrifying, before looking at my phone, which was full of problems, I would sit and observe my life as if everything had already worked out. Not imagine it. Not wish for it. Observe it, present tense. I'd feel the relief, the gratitude, the ease of already being there. I know how this sounds. Like manifestation nonsense. Like denial of reality. But here's what happened. Within a week, an old client reached out about a project. Hadn't heard from them in 2 years. The money from that project covered my rent. Within a month, I met someone at a random coffee shop who introduced me to a business opportunity that became the foundation of everything I do now. Within 3 months, my health started improving in ways doctors couldn't explain. Coincidence? Maybe. Or maybe I changed what I was observing for, and reality reorganized itself to match. I'm not special. I didn't have some unique gift. I just stumbled onto something that quantum physics has been trying to tell us for 100 years. The observer shapes reality. Not as some woo-woo metaphor. As actual, measurable, repeatable physics. And once I saw it, I couldn't unsee it. I started noticing how every area of my life was a direct reflection of how I was observing it. My relationships mirrored my beliefs about connection. My bank account mirrored my beliefs about worthiness. My body mirrored my beliefs about vitality. I wasn't manifesting. I was observing. And observation, as quantum mechanics proves, is creation. That's when everything changed. Because once you see the mechanism, you can't pretend you don't have the power. But here's where this gets truly profound. This isn't just about you getting the life you want. This is about understanding your role in the evolution of consciousness itself. You are not an isolated observer. You're part of a collective observation. Every conscious being on this planet is collapsing wave functions, creating reality through their observation. We're doing it together, whether we know it or not. And right now, in this moment in history, something unprecedented is happening. More people are waking up to this truth than ever before. The observer effect isn't just being studied in quantum physics labs anymore. It's being experienced, verified, lived by millions of people who are starting to remember who they really are. You're part of a global awakening, a shift in how humanity observes itself and its potential. And this shift is creating ripples through the quantum field that are changing the probability distributions of what's possible for our species. Think about it. 100 years ago, the idea that humans could fly was laughable. 50 years ago, the internet didn't exist. 20 years ago, the smartphone was science fiction. These weren't just inventions, they were shifts in collective observation. Enough people observed these possibilities as real, and reality reorganized itself to make them manifest. Right now, we're on the edge of an even bigger shift. As more people understand the observer effect, as more consciousness wakes up to its creative power, we're literally changing what's probable for humanity. We're observing new possibilities into existence. Climate crisis? In the old paradigm of unconscious observation, where humans see themselves as separate from nature, it seems inevitable. But what if millions of observers shifted their lens? What if we observed ourselves as one with the environment, as co-creators of regenerative systems? The wave function would collapse differently. Solutions would emerge. Technology would align. Reality would reorganize. Global conflict? It persists because we observe from separation, from scarcity, from fear. But observation from unity, from abundance, from love? That collapses different possibilities. Not naive optimism quantum mechanics. You're not just here to fix your personal life, though that's a beautiful place to start. You're here because consciousness is evolving, and you're a crucial node in that evolution. Your awakening ripples out. Your conscious observation affects the field that others are observing from. Every person who understands the observer effect and begins creating deliberately makes it easier for the next person. Every collapsed wave function of intentional creation reinforces that possibility in the collective field. You're not alone in this. You're part of a resonance pattern that's growing stronger every day. This is why this video found you now. The timing isn't random. You're needed. Your consciousness, awake and deliberate, is part of the critical mass that shifts everything. Morphic resonance, the biological phenomenon where behaviors spread through a species once enough individuals adopt them. The 100th monkey effect. The tipping point. These are just interesting concepts. They're evidence of the collective observer effect in action. And we're approaching that tipping point. Each person who wakes up accelerates the awakening of others, not through preaching or convincing, through observation, through living as conscious creators, through being the evidence. You're not just changing your life. You're changing what's possible for all life. That's not grandiosity. That's the quantum nature of reality. Everything is connected. Every observation matters. Your consciousness is a thread in the tapestry. And when you start weaving deliberately, the entire pattern shifts. This is bigger than you, but it can't happen without you. So here's where the rubber meets the road. You now understand the observer effect. You know that consciousness creates reality through observation. You recognize that you've been doing this unconsciously your entire life. And you're aware that you're part of a collective awakening. Now what? Now you choose, consciously, deliberately, moment by moment. Because here's the truth that nobody wants to hear. Knowing changes nothing if you don't act on it. Understanding the observer effect intellectually while continuing to observe from fear, lack, and limitation is like knowing how to swim but refusing to get in the water. You have to become the conscious observer. Not someday. Now. This means catching yourself in the act of unconscious observation. When you wake up and immediately check your phone, scrolling through news designed to trigger fear, that's observation. You're collapsing reality into chaos. When you look at your bank account and feel panic, that's observation. You're collapsing reality into scarcity. When you see your body in the mirror and feel disgust, that's observation. You're collapsing reality into disease. None of this is judgment. It's mechanics. The universe doesn't care if your observation comes from fear or love. It responds to both equally. That's the responsibility that comes with this power. You have to consciously choose what you're observing for. Every morning, before you do anything else, you must set your observation. Not affirmations. Not wishful thinking. Observation. Look at your life as if the desired reality is already here. Feel it. Embody it. Collapse the wave function from that state. Seeing debt? Observe abundance. Not as future possibility as present reality. Feel the relief, the freedom, the ease that comes with financial flow. Hold that observation until it becomes more real than the numbers on the screen. Seeing sickness? Observe vitality. Not denial of symptoms, conscious creation of wellness. Your body is trillions of cells, each one responding to observation. Medical studies prove the placebo effect, belief changing biology. That's the observer effect in your physical form. Seeing loneliness? Observe connection. Feel the warmth of belonging. Sense the presence of your people already existing in the quantum field, being drawn into your reality through the magnetic pole of your observation. But here's the critical part. You can't fake this. The universe responds to your genuine state of observation, not your mental performance. If you're affirming abundance while deeply believing in lack, guess which one wins? Your true observation. Your real expectation. So you have to go deeper. You have to examine and upgrade your core beliefs. What do you actually believe about yourself? About what you deserve? About what's possible? These beliefs are your measurement apparatus. They determine how the wave function collapses. This is inner work, shadow work, the unsexy part that everyone wants to skip. But it's essential. You can't observe from abundance if you fundamentally believe you're not worthy of it. The conflict between your desired observation and your actual belief creates interference pattern zoo. Get mixed results, inconsistent manifestation, confusion. Align your beliefs with your desires. Do the therapy. Do the meditation. Do the journaling. Do whatever it takes to become congruent. Because when your conscious intention and your subconscious belief are aligned, when your entire being is observing in the same direction, that's when reality has no choice but to comply. And then, you must act. The observer effect is not passive. It's participatory. You observe the reality you want, and then you move as if it's already true. You take the actions that the person living that reality would take, not from desperation, from knowing. If you're observing abundance, you don't hoard. You invest. You give. You flow. Because that's what abundant people do. If you're observing health, you don't wait to feel better before you exercise. You move your body because that's what healthy people do. If you're observing success, you don't wait for permission. You create because that's what successful people do. Your actions are observations. They're statements to the universe about what you believe is true. Make sure your actions match your desired reality. This is the moment. The choice point. You can close this video and go back to unconscious observation, letting default programming collapse your reality into more of the same. Or you can step into your power as a conscious creator and start observing deliberately. The universe is waiting for your decision. What will you observe? You've made it to the end. That means something. Most people would have clicked away, would have let the discomfort of responsibility push them back into the comfort of victimhood. But you're still here. That tells me you're ready. Welcome to the awakening. You're now part of a global community of conscious observers. People who understand that reality isn't fixed. People who know they're not powerless passengers but active creators. People who are using the observer effect to transform their lives and, in doing so, transforming the collective possibility field for all humanity. This is just the beginning. Understanding the observer effect is the key, but mastery takes practice. Daily practice. Moment-to-moment awareness. Continuous choice. Every morning when you wake up, remember, you are the observer. The reality you experience today will be a direct reflection of what you observe for. Set your intention. Choose your lens. Collapse the wave function deliberately. When challenges arise, and they will, remember, you're being given an opportunity to observe differently. The old you would see problems. The conscious observer sees possibilities. The quantum field contains all outcomes. Which one will you observe into being? When doubt creeps in, and it will, remember, you've done this before. Every moment of your life where something impossibly perfect occurred, where reality seemed to conspire in your favor, where you felt held by the universe that was you, observing masterfully. You just didn't know it was you. Now you do. Share this. Not to convince anyone, not to preach, but because your conscious observation ripples out and affects others. When you live as a conscious creator, you give others permission to do the same. You become the evidence. You make it easier for the next person to wake up. We're building something here. A critical mass of conscious observers who understand that we're not separate individuals fighting for scraps in a hostile universe. We're one consciousness, experiencing itself through infinite perspectives, learning to create deliberately. And as more of us wake up, as more observers choose consciously, the probability field shifts. Things that seemed impossible become probable. Solutions emerge. Synchronicities multiply. The veil thins. You are not alone in this. Every person watching this video, everyone who's ever had that moment of recognition where they felt the truth of their creative power, we're all connected. We're all collapsing wave functions together, weaving a new reality into being. The old world was built by unconscious observation, by fear, by scarcity, by separation. It's crumbling because those observations are changing. We're observing something new into existence, a world where humanity understands its power and uses it consciously. A world where cooperation replaces competition because we recognize we're all part of one field. A world where abundance flows because we've stopped observing lack. That world exists right now in the quantum field, in superposition with all other possibilities. And every time you choose to observe it, you strengthen its probability. You pull it closer to manifestation. You make it more real. This is the work. This is the calling. This is why you're here. The observer effect isn't just a quantum physics phenomenon. It's the mechanism of creation itself. And you, yes, you, watching this right now, you are the observer. You are the creator. You always have been. You just forgot for a while. But now you remember. So go out there and observe consciously. Create deliberately. Live as the powerful being you actually are. And watch as reality rearranges itself to match your observation. The universe is not something that happens to you. The universe is something you happen through. Be the conscious observer. Join the awakening. Change your observation. Change your life. Change the world. This is your moment. This is your power. This is your truth. Welcome home.